Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Radio Entrepreneurs, multiple time zones today. There's a little hint. And my name is JDavis, and we continue to stream stories of entrepreneurship, leadership, and business in this economy. Now we're going to go way West Coast, a little north, to meet John Chan, CEO, and Jennifer Lowe, COO of 2X Growth Agency out of Vancouver, Canada, maybe a little bit out of Hong Kong, too. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you guys, and thank you for having us.
I guess you're getting up early today for us. Why don't you tell us about your firm and what you do?
Sure. So I'll start things off. We're a performance marketing agency for e-commerce and SaaS companies. So running advertising campaigns on Meta and on Google is our bread and butter. And we also do a little bit of landing pages and email and SMS work.
Well, that's pretty simple. Too simple for me. So tell me about your path to becoming partners together. I know you had to get married to become partners, but you must have done something before both those events.
Sure, of course. So I'll speak for my side, I won't speak for her. But I guess for me, I started off as I dropped out of university. I was 19, and school wasn't really for me. But I started off doing freelancing as a web designer, and for myself, my career kind of went on a few different paths. I started as a designer. I got into software. I did consulting for a little bit. And prior to running the agency, we've been running the agency since 2016. But before that, and our first business together, we started a software company. At first, I started it as like a side project to teach myself how to code, but along the way, she basically joined in. But I'll kind of let her speak her part.
Yeah. To be very honest, I never thought I would be running my own business one day. It was all thanks to this guy that actually brought me into the business world. And I graduated university way back with a bachelor in communications, actually thinking I was going to do public relations, but got my foot in the door with marketing, specifically with social media marketing, with Meta, back then Facebook. I worked with different agencies and got let go. Didn't really have a sense of where I was going to go with my career. And when he was basically building the Saas company, he got a lot of customers, or not customers, users. It's users coming in, flowing in. And at that time, it's like, okay, very overwhelming, and asked me, well, how about you just join me into this right now and help me with my customer support and getting all the tickets triaged first. And that's how I got my foot in the door into this partnership, which have lasted quite a while now. So
yeah. Timelines might help, actually, just for context, right? So she graduated 2011. I started my career in 2006 when I dropped out. The software company started in 2013 and then ran probably until 2016, 2017 or so. And then we sort of transitioned into the agency around that time. I'll stop there.
Well, obviously being a family business, and if you look above my head, we are, we also represent the Family Business Association. Is it an adjustment having to work together, the two of you?
100%.
I think it is quite of an adjustment, but I think like the positive side is because we dated first and before we got into business together. So 2 years of dating before we finally found got my foot into the door and helped him out, and then put ourselves into the entrepreneurial journey together. But adjustment is a lot to deal with, especially when it comes to growing up in our 20s together. We had a lot to learn and we had a lot to go through, a lot of pains and struggles, and we're still maturing as individuals as well. So that's been tough, but it also helped us establish the relationship in business and in work and in life together as well. So I don't think we would have got through into marriage if it wasn't through that growing up together as well.
Yeah, you divide up. I'll add is that it's funny because when people ask us, I generally don't advise working together with your spouse or girlfriend at the time. But like Jen said, it gave us a chance to grow up together, and it really battle tested our relationship. And so by the time, when we got married, we were so certain about the other person. At least for me, I was so certain about the other person. I wouldn't second guess it anymore, right? So it was nice.
Good answer, John. I don't want to create any conflict on screen.
Wink, wink.
Do you have totally separate roles within the business?
We do. We did it in the beginning because, as Jen mentioned about growing up together, a lot of times part of the journey was figuring out what our respective roles and strengths were.
Mhm.
And in our first company, I think that's where a lot of the mistakes were made. Back then, when we were building the software company, we focused a lot around sort of like the technical skills that we brought to the table. And for me, I think I was still maturing, and what that meant was that I focused and prioritized more around the technical skills that we brought to the table. And for her, she was basically relatively new to her in her career, but I underemphasized the character strengths that she brought into the table. And this was actually something that a mentor kind of like drilled into my head. And so in a sense, as we're building the second company, it kind of gave us a sense of how to revisit how will we do this all over again. And the first company was about building, quote unquote, a great product. The second company really felt like building a great company and learning how to lead with our respective strengths. And so roles today, right, official titles would be like, oh, I'm the CEO and she's the COO. But effectively, what it meant was that a lot of times I can lean on my strength on strategy and direction, and seeing sort of the difference, like cross-pollinating skills of being a designer or software or a marketer. And I think in her case, it's about bringing her organizational set of skills, seeing things through and close to completion. And so like the running joke is that I'm always the one that's starting projects or wanting to do new things, and she's always the one saying, no, please don't do that anymore. Like we got to get finished the stuff we have in front of us.
Sometimes business, it's like a restaurant. It's always good to have a front of the house person and a back of the house person. So that's what you've just described, which I very much appreciate, and I like that role definition. But let's flip the questions from the inside to out. What is your unique selling proposition that makes you special to your clients?
100%. So the main thing is this: with media buying and advertising specifically, in that world, there's a lot of I would say this. With agencies, a lot of times there's a misunderstanding and mismapping of what happens on the marketing front with what's the operations of the actual company. And so tying advertising campaigns back to, for example, the gross margins or the unit economics of the business, that's sort of the first fundamental skills that I think a lot of agencies sort of miss. And so for us, when we started our business, part of the motivation to start the agency was because we felt like we didn't understand growth and marketing and distribution well enough. And so we wanted to basically, quote unquote, teach what we needed to learn. And that gave us an insight a lot across a lot of different businesses and industries, and gave us a way to pattern match. And so thinking ahead of, again, where our strengths are and where we want to be is eventually we want to be a private equity business, and where we acquire different businesses and brands to grow in-house. And so it really forces us to think of as operators ourselves and not just as a service provider. So I think thinking that way, in and of itself shouldn't be a differentiator, but in some cases it really is. And then the second thing that I would say that is has really brought our skills to the table is the fact that we were cross-trained as in software, we're cross-trained as designers, and we're cross-trained as marketers. And it gave us a ways to tackle problems in ways that it's very hard for specialist services to do. And so I think agencies, especially larger agencies, get around that by having more people on payroll and staffing. But for us, we're basically a small team that functions as a cross sort of discipline and can take on more scope than the average agency. I think that's the way I'll position ourselves.
I feel something to add here is where he mentioned in the future of getting private equity from acquiring brands. We actually have acquired already two brands, e-commerce brands, one selling socks, and the other is oral hygiene products like bamboo toothbrush and toothpaste tabs and so on. But because we run those two brands on our own as well, we go through the intricacies of operations, logistics, beyond just the marketing, and we can feel the struggle and feel the pain that most brand owners also feel. So when we look to prospects and our clients, we understand what their struggles are. We understand what they care about because we have gone through that and we are going through it as well, which makes us very unique and different from most other agencies and most other firms in that case.
Interesting. I will ask another question, but you just reminded me that when I worked for Doyle Dam Burnback, I worked on one of my accounts was a Pearl Drops toothpaste, which was the first non-tubed toothpaste that, you know, professed to making your teeth very white. I'm not going to say how they did it, but you know, you're in Vancouver, Northwest. Do you feel that you're limited by your geography, or do you service clients everywhere?
We are a fully remote team, and we've been for a long while. So we have hired locally before and had office space locally before. And because of COVID, we no longer have an office space. And now that we don't have an office space, we can meet different clients at anywhere we want, fly anywhere we want, work in any time zone we want, as long as we deliver the performance and our team can actually meet whenever we feel like it as well.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I'll add to it is that Vancouver is a very special place for e-commerce brands and firms. We didn't expect this at the time, but we noticed that a lot of different cities tend to train and breed different types of talent, right? And so if you're in an engineering sort of like, so if universities, for example, trains a lot of software engineers, or computer like scientists, you end up with a lot of strong technical talent there. In Vancouver, you know, it wasn't planned that way, but it's basically the first major port coming in from China. And so that meant that there were a lot of headquarters and large brands like Lemon or Native Shoes or that kind of thing that headquartered in Vancouver. And it meant that that entire city was just slightly generally better for well versed in that particular industry. And so we found that to be a bit of an advantage as well. So as we meet with local professionals or meet with other folks and connect with other entrepreneurs, we're able to, like, you know, trade ideas and things like that. That definitely helps from a, you know, geographic centric position.
I understand cities being a skill center, just like Toronto tends to be a production center for video.
100%.
So, you know, our time is coming to the end, John and Jennifer, and you know, I hope you're going to come back on the show again. You're now into our network of radio entrepreneurs, and we love to track the success of people over time. So we'd love to have you back again. But if someone sees your video before you come back, can you tell them how to reach you if they're interested in your services?
100%. So our website is 2x.agency. So it's, you know, if you look for 2x agency, you'll probably find us. And if you want to connect with us indirectly, we're likely both active on Twitter. So I'm JTC Chan, CHAN. And for her, it's at Jen Lo. So JENN, so 2 N's, LO _ So
sounds like the old Jello commercial. I don't know if you remember the old Jello commercial, JELLO. Now I'm really dating myself. Remind everybody, this is Radio Entrepreneurs, and I tend to be the silliest person on this show, and we'll be back with more stories after this break.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, guys. Don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn and stay connected. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.